Hey guys, Mark from Northeast Bass Fishing. How you doing? I spliced together some fishing clips from the last two outings I had last week, Tuesday and Thursday, and two totally different types of fishing, which you'll see in the clips. So here's the intro, and the clips are about 12 to 14 minutes, I forget altogether, and then I'll give you guys a little recap on the baits I was using, okay? See you at the end. Bye. Hey guys, Mark from Northeast Bass Fishing. How you doing? I got a couple days from last week of some clips here, and it was two totally different days of fishing, and it was only a couple days apart. So this is day one. I think it was last Tuesday, and it was all pretty much sight fishing smallmouth on Neds, and I was just throwing the wacky worm net around anything that I thought looked like a bed or just around rocks or anywhere. And here's some clips of some of the better smallies I caught. I didn't know what to expect as far as, it had gotten warm. I didn't know if the fish would still be on beds or they'd be done. And as it turned out, they were still on beds and definitely around shallow water. If it wasn't a bed, it was around a rock. And I would just target anything that I thought might have been, as I said, as a spawning area or just some of the chunk rocks in the lake. And just throwing that wacky net around. For some reason, some of the color seems to kind of fade in and out on the camera. I think it was probably the glare, depending on which way it was facing. But these aren't huge smallies. They're all pretty decent ones. I didn't show you, I didn't obviously keep a lot of the little 10, 12 inchers that I caught for you to see. But, it's pretty basic, springtime fishing towards, spawn time, towards the end of spawn. Because the water here was, it was in the 60s. Now, this is a deep, clear water lake. So it's taken a little longer to warm up. The fish take a little longer to move up. But you can see all these nice little smallies. Nothing huge, but I think that a lot of these fish that I caught I'm not 100% sure. They might have been males. I don't know. The only reason I think that is for a clip I'll show you in a minute here. But I don't know if these were all just males, around the beds. And the females hadn't moved up yet. I'm not sure. But as I said, the water was in the low 60s on this day. And this is right as, the real warm weather was starting to come to my area. So as I said, the water I think was, those low 60s, when I got out there. But it was a nice day. And that was a trend that would continue last week with the water just warming up every day. So I'm just throwing those, I think I got a 1/4 ounce Ned head on there. And I threw, I think, 5 different colors. The colors are relevant. And as I've said in other videos, when you're, when the fish are up shallow like that, the smallies like that, they'll hit anything. They're not picky. They're very aggressive when they're around beds or whether they're up shallow like that and you're sight fishing them. I don't think there's a bait that they would ignore, probably when they're in this mood. But I was just kind of throwing those, as I said, those wacky worm Neds around. And it's amazing to me in that clear water that you can't even really see them. It's hard to you don't even think there's anything there. It gets to the point where I'm just kind of throwing to areas that I think might have a fish. And a lot of times that bait will take off and just start moving away. But there was quite a few times on this day where I would feel something on the bait and the bait would be gone. And then I'd throw back in there and catch the smallie, and he'd spit out the bait that he just stole. So they would definitely try to steal the Ned baits from there before you hooked them up. But I'm just working around the shoreline. It wasn't a windy day at all, really. All nice color on them. We're getting a little warmer out. But as I said, the water's still in the low 60s, so it's not. But you can see how clear it is. The water's still in the low 60s, so it was a little chilly. I had my feet in the water a few times, and it wasn't that warm yet. Early last week. But as I said, things did change this day and on where we had some really warm temperatures and things changed drastically on the lakes, at least lakes I was on. Now here, if I remember right, watch this clip. I was just back in this little cove, and I saw all these big fish swimming around. Let me see if this guy popped. Yeah. I thought they were trout. As it turned out, they were huge smallmouth. These were all big smallmouth that I assume were just pre-spawn females that were just kind of moving up in the shallows. And I tried everything to catch him, and I caught that one in the jerkbait, and he got off. And he was well over 4 pounds. So I think those might have been the females that were starting to move up, maybe getting ready to drop eggs. I don't know that for a fact. And then I think I might have been just catching males. But there was at least 20 or more big smallies cruising around in that cove. And I was in there for quite a while. And they were not interested. I watched them look at jerkbaits and turn away. I threw Neds by them. I threw flukes by them. I threw, spinner baits, chatterbaits. I threw everything through there trying to get a reaction bite. And I only had that one, and he was hooked funny, and he got off. So I think maybe these might all be just males that were up starting to make the beds, waiting for the females to come up there. But they were all over the place. They were all over the place. You guys are seeing the clips of the ones I showed you, but there was a ton of those, 12-inch bass that I didn't even bother, of those males. You can kind of see it to the right there, that light spot was a bed. There's a pretty decent one here. And that was the black wacky Ned. And as I said, I was throwing green pumpkin. I was throwing straight black. I was throwing what they call their trout color. Everything, it didn't matter. Like a watermelon candy, a green pumpkin candy type color. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. They'd eat it. And sometimes, as I said, they'd eat it more than once. And, you'd miss them. They'd steal the bait, and you throw it back in there and catch them. And then all of a sudden, they'd spit the bait out that they just stole from you a minute ago. So, this early season, fishing for smallies like this when they're up shallow, when they're making beds, it doesn't really take any skill. it's not like the fish are real aggressive. There's a nice one there eating the Ned. They all have nice colors on them. It gets, I don't want to say it gets to the point where you're tired of catching them, but it does get a little, after a while, it's like, okay, I think I'll just leave them alone. I don't want to bother them anymore. And I think I only went out 2 times when fish were on beds this spring, just to, I'm just, I don't want to bug them too much. And as I said, I try to catch them, I'll catch them and then throw them right back, get them back there. If they're making those beds, waiting for the females, just get them back in there as quick as you can. If I catch a real nice one, I'll take a quick picture of them or maybe do a quick short on them, but I like to get them back in the water as soon as possible. But I think they were just, the males were up there making the beds, and those females that I saw in that one cove are getting ready to go up there and, and actually do the spawn. There's that black Ned there. But that's it. So that was Tuesday of last week. Now here are some clips from, I believe, Thursday, after we've had like 3 80 to 90 degree days in a row. So the water temperature now on this lake, this is a different lake. This is a smallmouth, largemouth lake. The other lake was predominantly smallmouth. This lake is pretty much like post-spawn. And I didn't know that. You can see the gut on that fish. I didn't know that when I got there. I didn't know what to expect. But the water was 72 degrees, 71, 72 degrees. And I didn't catch any smallies. I was on this lake this time last year, and largemouth and smallmouth were on beds. I did see beds on this lake, but nothing on any of them. Some bluegill maybe, but no bass on any of them. So that first fish was on a jig. I had just thrown my line out to straighten my line out. This is my first frog fish of the year, even though I guess he isn't official because he gets off here by the boat, you'll see. But that previous fish was on a chatterbait, so I caught a fish on a jig, caught a fish on a chatterbait, and this guy on the frog here. The pads are just barely starting to come up on this lake. And here he's going to jump off right there. So I guess he's not technically my first frog fish of the year, but that'll come later. But the water, like I said, is 72 degrees. It was just kind of junk fishing. They were definitely post-spawn. You could see how slim they were, how sucked out they were in their guts. And at this point of the day, I started throwing the mag draft around. This was the first fish on the mag draft, a little better bass. Didn't catch anything huge, maybe a couple in that 3-pound range, but that's about it. and it was totally post-spawn. So for a post-spawn day, it was actually pretty good. I've had a lot of post-spawn days where it was really tough getting a bite. But that's that first one on the mag draft. So I'm just kind of throwing everything at them, trying to see what they want, what they're willing to eat, you know, in that post-spawn mode that they're in. I had lost one on on the mag draft, caught that one, and then I caught this one that you'll see come up. This is another mag draft fish, another largie, and it was all largies. And I think I might have caught one or two pickerel that day. That you're not going to see them, but I did catch my first fish right here. This is on that Straight King hybrid hunter I've been throwing around a little bit, and I had just gotten whacked on the going through here with the mag draft, but didn't hook anything up. So I went back through this area with the hybrid hunter, and I caught this fish. So that's the first fish I've actually caught on that Straight King hybrid hunter right there. I've used the 6 cents version and caught some fish, but I haven't caught any on the Straight King one, and there's the first one right there. So I'm just kind of working around, just like junk fishing. I'm throwing the chatterbait. Here I'm throwing the frog again, and this guy just came out in open water and just housed it. So there were some aggressive fish, despite the fact they're post-spawn. There definitely was some aggressive fish around that would bite the frog. So I guess this technically is my first frog fish of the year because I actually got him into the boat. Look at that live target frog there. And then this is an area that gets a lot of pads in the summer, and they're just barely starting to come up now. Here's another frog fish. He was right up on the shoreline there. If you look like, unfortunately, not all of them hit like right in camera view. You can see how kind of sucked out they are. So they're definitely post-spawn. He's a little bit of a humpback. This is another, I believe, frog fish here. So I think I might have got 4 or 5 that day on the frog. At least ones that were worth showing you. But as I said, nothing huge that day. As 3-pounders were probably the best. It's so hard to tell because a few of them had big mouths, but they didn't have much of a gut to them being post-spawn. Then I started throwing the chatterbait around a little bit again. In this end of the lake, I usually do pretty well on the chatterbait, and I caught a bunch here, a lot of small ones, but I'll show you a couple of the better, at least over 2-pound ones. And that's just a jackhammer, green pumpkin jackhammer with a chartreuse grub trailer. Chucking that around. Little guy there. And I just kept working that around. Then I caught a bunch of small ones and a couple that I actually showed you the video of that were at least over 2 pounds. So that was pretty good little spot there for some bites. I think there might have been a couple pickerel mixed in. And I started coming up the shoreline, working the chatterbait again. Wind had picked. It seemed like when the wind picked up a little bit, that bite was a little better. The wind was it was never really heavy, but it was kind of in and out. I always did like a little bit of chop when I'm throwing that. It's a little better fish here. I don't like it to be dead calm. But long and skinny, you know, post-spawn fish, a lot of long and skinny ones. And this, I think, is my last fish of the day that I got on camera worth showing you guys. This is another mag draft, a little point there. Threw the mag draft up there. I had fished it in the morning and got nothing. Usually this point's pretty productive, but I didn't get anything there in the morning. So I figured I'd come back and throw that mag draft through there and caught a decent one. It's one of the better fish of the day. And that was at the end of my day. So 2 totally different days. 1 day spawn, 1 day post-spawn, and 2 days apart. So I will see you guys soon on YouTube. Mark out. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed those clips. So as I said, 2 totally different outings. And I guess springtime of the year, it's kind of what you can expect with weather changes so drastically. Because Tuesday when I went out, now granted it's more of a deep Clearwater lake, so it takes a little longer for it to warm up. But all the fish that I caught were either on beds or round beds. Anywhere that there was some shallow, light spots, I would, pitch that Ned to. And it's pretty much a smallmouth lake and trout lake. And as you can see, I caught a ton of them. And as I've said in the past, it takes 0 skill to catch a smallmouth when they're bedding. Whatever bait you throw practically by a bed, they eat. And a lot of times if they miss it the first time, because I had multiple times where they would hit my Ned, it would be gone, and I would throw back in there, and and you'd catch them, and they'd be spitting out the Ned that they just stole a minute earlier. But totally different on Thursday. We had 3 hot days in a row. The water temperature shot up. Now, granted, 2 different types of lakes. The second lake I went to is more of a shallow, weedy lake, largemouth, smallmouth combo. So I didn't know if the fish were going to be still on beds or not. I was there prepared to see beds, fish on beds, but when I got there and the water temp was 71 degrees, and I saw a lot of beds, but nothing on them. So that lake, the fish really, you know, they got up to the banks quick, made their beds, and did their thing, and I think they're done. I can't imagine they're not, just based on how they were acting. And you'll see, as you saw in the clips, a lot of the fish are very, you know, spawned out, looking very thin. But it was still a pretty good day considering, because sometimes post-spawn can be rough. So 2 totally different conditions. And, you know, the first day was more just, you know, it was pretty much Neds. I think I had that one that got off on the jerkbait that you saw. And that was kind of a weird situation. I'm seeing all these fish on beds. I'm catching them here and there. And I come into this cove and I see, you know, these schools of I mean, I can see these fish. I mean, they're big. And I just assumed they were just trout that were, you know, sitting in the sun. And as I got up there and I was kind of looking around and just watching them, I said, those are not trout. Those are big smallmouth. So my guess is that those are probably the pre-spawn females that are up in the shallows, getting ready to do their thing, and the males are the ones that I was probably catching around the beds that are just getting prepared for those females to come up. And that one was a big one that got off. That's too bad that it got off on the jerkbait, but they were not interested in anything. I was there for a while trying different baits, but they were not interested. So I left them alone. But there were some big smallmouth right in that cove, just hanging out there, sitting, you know, just cruising around back and forth, waiting to do their thing. But let me just show you what I was doing. Now, obviously, it's pretty simple. That first day was just Neds, and one of my subscribers asked. I told him I was using these. This is the Wacky Worm version of the Ned rig, the Wacko 3-inch, and I have a ton of these. So since I knew I'd be using a lot, I just threw them in the boat. And for you guys who've been to Wacky Worm up in Pennsylvania, it's an awesome fishing store. And if you guys are not in the Pennsylvania area, you can order these online. If you just go on Wacky Worm, I'll put a link to their website. But any of these baits I show you ever from Wacky Worm, you can order online. But I'll just show you the ones. The color was irrelevant. It did not matter. They would eat any color I threw. But this is like their I don't remember if these are 50 count bags or 25 count bags. I don't remember. I don't know if it says it on any of them. Probably not. It might be 50 because it seems like there's a lot in there. It seems like there's a lot more than 25. But whatever, they have these big value packs. So if you want to get them and get a lot and stock up, it's a good way to go. But let me just show you the different ones I was using. This is their Alabama Craw color, which is one of my favorites. It's like that green pumpkin on the top and that orange on the belly. That's a great color. Alabama Craw in the Waco. Their green pumpkin candy, which is one of my favorites. You know I love this in a jig or any kind of a soft plastic. That green pumpkin or watermelon candy. Just a great, great color for bass fishing. I was using that one, and as I said, it did not matter which color. Watermelon red, of course, is the older bag. The bag is falling apart. But good old watermelon red, classic color. Now, whether they still have these colors, I would assume they do, because this is their, you know, this is their brand. And here's the rainbow trout color. Now, they call this one the chubby. I don't know if the chubby and the Waco is different. Let's see. They call that the chubby. Let's see if it's different from the Waco, Wacko, whatever you want to call it. This is a 3-inch. Since it's Wacky Worm, I'll say it's Wacko. I don't know if these are, I don't think these are any different when I look at them. I guess maybe, I guess the chubby, I guess it is a little thicker bait, and it has this has the regular, the Wacko has more of a tapered tail. So I guess they're slightly different. They're not that different. So that might have a little more plastic to it. But that's that. What did I say that was? Rainbow trout. That rainbow trout's a cool color because I love a pink Ned when I'm sight fishing, and adding that green pumpkin to the top just gives it a different look. It's really a good bait. I had a lot of torn up baits on the deck of the boat for sure. Just plain old black worked great. Plain black baits are great in clear water. Surprisingly, they really work well. So that's just the black one. Always a good option. And this is the, now see, this says the 3-inch Wacko chubby. So I'm assuming the Wacko, and I'm assuming it's pretty much the same thing. Pretty much the same thing. That's watermelon candy, which obviously I've told you guys 1,000 times is one of my favorite colors in baits. So there you go. See all that flake in there? I hope you can see, hope it comes out in the light. You can see that flake in there. But they're great baits. For you guys who throw Neds, it's a great way to stock up with big bulk packs. I think they're 50 count. And Wacky Worm always has their spring sale. Everything's on sale, and it's a great way to stock up. And I do miss going there, but I know if I ever run out of anything, I can always order it online. So that's Tuesday. That's pretty much the only thing other than that bass on that jerkbait, that mega bass that got off. Everything else was on a Ned because it was just the situation and the tactics to use for those spawning fish. Now day 2 on the shallow lake where the water is 70 degrees, I started off throwing a jig around, and then I started seeing beds, and was wondering, when I saw the water temps, I was thinking to myself, this might be totally different than what I was planning here. But I was just throwing regular, you know, like I think it was more of like kind of just a green jig, and the jig bite was not great, but my first fish did come on that, and that was kind of a fluke because, you know, every now and if you guys flip a lot and pitch jigs, you know, your line kind of gets messed up sometimes in the spool, so I'll just make a long cast out into deep water just to kind of straighten out any little messed up spots in the line. And as I did that, I'm pulling it back. I'm like, it feels like there's a fish on there, and there was. And that first bass had a big mouth, but he had no, I think he was on Ozempic or something, because he was so skinny. I started saying, I'm wondering if these fish are going to be post-spawn. And this lake that I fish is usually a good chatterbait lake. And in the beginning, because I got there fairly early, 7:30, the chatterbait bite was really not happening that much. But the second fish, I was just throwing this jackhammer, this 1/2 ounce jackhammer, a green pumpkin. I have that's a Kalen's, I think that's the Kalen's 5-inch chartreuse grub trailer, because you guys know I like a grub as a trailer. And that was the one that in the morning they weren't really going for it. It took a while for that bite to start happening. And I was really thinking it was going to be a rough day at this point. The first hour and a half or so, hour to hour and a half was a little slow. I had that one on the jig, fished probably a half hour, 45 minutes, and then I got one on the chatterbait. And then I started throwing the frog around. And this is a lake that's got a lot of pads usually, but they're not up yet. And I was just throwing the live target frog. This isn't the one, it's the same one though, because I have more than one. You can tell I put those new Spro skirt legs on there, so it looks nice. It's got to be trimmed down actually. And I catch a nice one on the frog. Of course, he gets off right next to the boat, as you guys saw in the video. He was a nice chunk, and he didn't look like he was too spawned out, so that probably would have been one of the bigger fish of the day. But right next to the boat, he popped off the frog. But okay, so 3 fish. Had a couple other kind of blow-ups on the frog, nothing special. Started working a couple of the points on the lake. Nothing really going on there with the chatterbait. With anything else I was throwing, and I was like, man, what's going on here? It's got to be, I guess it's just post-spawn. This is going to be tough. But then I, just kept working with the chatterbait. I think I got another one on that. Some of the fish you didn't see because they were small, but then I started throwing the Mega Bass Mag Draft around. And just to see if, who knows, maybe they're on bait. Maybe they're more into, focused on eating bait. So I was throwing the Mag Draft around. And I caught two, had one get off right away. Then I caught two on it, decent fish. And that's really a fun bite. I'm using the Mag Draft more and more now every year. And I'm really getting into it. This is when it started. It definitely gets some teeth marks on it. I don't know if you guys can see that, so that's a good thing. But I was just kind of throwing it any place I'd throw a spinnerbait or a chatterbait, and they were biting it. So got a couple on that, and it seemed like as the day went on, the fish were getting a little more aggressive. I saw beds a lot, not a lot of beds, but I saw beds in places I've seen them in the past, because I can remember fish being on beds in this lake last year in like early June, late May, early June. Here I am in mid-May, and they're done already. So I went back to the frog, caught a couple on the frog. And then I finally got my first bass on the Strike King Hybrid Hunter. I'd gone through an area that I like to throw a chatterbait, I like to throw a square bill, and I was throwing the Mag Draft through there, and I got bumped a few times, but no hookup. So I went back through with this and caught a nice one. So I finally got one on the Strike King Hybrid Hunter. I have thrown the 6 cents version and caught a few, but I wanted to get these Hybrid Hunters going. And that was the only fish I think on the Hybrid Hunter I got all day was that one. And then I went back to the chatterbait, caught some more on that, got into an area where I ag like 5 in a row, but the 2 of them were like, 12-inch fish. So you guys didn't see those. And then I finished the day up on the Mag Draft, caught a nice one on that. So, to me, post-spawn fishing, it's kind of like junk fishing. Really, what are we talking about here? 4 different baits, 5 if you count the jig, just to get a bite here and there. Because some of the fish are aggressive and some, are obviously in that post-spawn mode. It's a lake that I know has smallies. I did not see any of them around any of the areas where I usually catch them. Nothing going on with the smallmouth. But not a bad day. For a post-spawn day, it was actually pretty good as far as getting some action. But, it was like you'd catch a fish and then it'd be slow. Then you catch another one, it'd be slow. So if you guys are dealing with that post-spawn bite right now, be versatile. Throw a lot of different things. Throw a chatterbait. Throw a crankbait that you like. If it's a lake where the frog or other topwater baits can be good, try that. Try your swim baits. Whether you want to throw something like the Mag Draft, whether you want to throw your Kitex or whatever it is you want to throw. Pitch your jigs around the cover. I saw at least 3 bass and this lake has a pretty decent amount of laydowns and brush piles and weeds. At least 3 times I can recall where I would throw the jig in there, nothing, and I'd pull the jig out, and I was pulling out, the bass would come up behind it. So that means they're looking at it, but they're just not aggressive. They were just not being aggressive, and other times they would just chomp it, but not that day, So the good thing is, I guess, is that the spawn there is over, so it'll only get better as time goes by and the fish get more ready into their summer patterns and want to eat more. But that's it, guys. So if there's any lesson I can give you from those 2 days is things change fast. When that temperature goes up, things change fast, and things change from lake to lake. Every lake is set up differently. I'm sure if I went to another deep Clearwater lake on Thursday, it probably would have been more of the same as far as bed fishing goes. But, for 2 lakes that are not that far apart to be so totally different is pretty cool. So, you got to be versatile, especially this time of year. So if you guys are dealing with the post-spawn so-called blues, which we've all, experienced, just be versatile. Try different baits, try different things, and you can turn a tough day or a tough bite into a pretty good day. So that's the lesson of this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Any questions, let me know. I will put a link to the Wacky Worm homepage, their website. So if you guys are interested in those, you can order some of those up. All these other baits, you guys have seen them. Plenty of videos I've done on them. You all know where to get your frogs and your Mag Drafts and your chatterbaits and all that stuff. But I will put a link to Wacky Worm because it's a great store. I always was a big fan of Wacky Worm in Pennsylvania, and all this stuff I showed you can get there too, along with their own brand, of soft plastics. their own in-house made baits. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Any questions, let me know. Love the comments all the time. Please like and share the video. And if you're the first time you've seen any of my videos, please subscribe to the channel. Okay. I'll see you guys soon on YouTube. Mark out.